Good day, poker peeps, and welcome to Smart Poker Study. My name is Sky Matsuhashi. Now, in today's video, I'm going to help you figure out which flop spots you are most profitable in and which spots you lose the most money. So if you're listening to this in the podcast episode, I'm going to be diving through my Poker Tracker 4 database and actually running filters. If you're watching on YouTube, you can watch and follow along with your own Poker Tracker 4 database, which is the way I most recommend to consume this video. That way you're going to get the most out of it because you're going to be actively using Poker Tracker 4, building filters, saving those quick filters, and actually finding out where you're most profitable and least profitable. So on the screen, you can see my Poker Tracker 4 database for Ignition Poker. I've played about 15,500 hands so far, and positive 5.56 big blinds per 100 hands. So Ignition Poker is working out pretty darn well for me. Also on the screen is the spreadsheet that I created for myself to record these numbers. You can find a screenshot of this spreadsheet at smartpokerstudy.com/bread-and-butter. That's the show notes page for today's episode. So what I recommend is you whip out your journal right now, draw out this spreadsheet for yourself, and then follow along with me. We're going to write down our number of hands and win rate for each spot. Maybe make some notes on any important finds as well. All right, so let's get to work running these filters. Now, as you can see from the spreadsheet right here, each of the filters include the saw flop aspect to it. Let me show you how to get to that. In Poker Tracker 4, go to More Filters, Actions and Opportunities, Flop, and then toggle on Saw Flop. Add that to Filter, Save and Apply Filters. So we could see right now, when I saw flop over the 15,500 hands, I saw the flop 2,325 times. Now, this filter shows every time where you saw the flop. You were the raiser, you were the caller, it was checked to you in the big blind, all of those times. The win rate is positive 120 big blinds per 100 hands. That's great because this means that on average, every time I see the flop, each hand, I win 1.2 big blinds. That's pretty darn nifty, right? I'm doing a good job when I'm seeing the flop. Now, let's take a look here when you saw flop in position. So you have the saw flop already filtered in your database. Go to More Filters. Actually, before we add anything to the filter, let me show you how to save this as a quick filter. All of the filters that we're going to run today, you're going to see I have it saved as a quick filter. So when you click More Filters, go to Save as Quick Filter, and then simply type in a name. Saw flop, for example. I already have it saved, so I'm not going to resave it. But once you save it, you can pull it up super quick at any time. You don't have to run the filters again. Let's add to filter. Actions and opportunity. I apologize. We're doing saw flop in position. So hand details, player position on the flop. Now you have two options, in position or out of position. Let's toggle on in position by clicking it. Add that to filter. Now, one of the things I do when I'm always creating filters, especially if it's a new filter, I kind of re-examine it to make sure it's going to give me what I want. Saw flop, yes. In position, yes, we're good to go. Save and apply filters. Of course, save it as a quick filter first if you don't already have it saved. When I apply this filter, you can see I have it saved as saw flop IP, or in position. Now we can see for me 1,036 hands with a positive 114 big blinds per 100 hands. So I'm winning a good amount of money when I see that flop in position. Now, not in position. Go to More Filters and very simple, highlight the in position part of the filter and hit Not. Simple. Saw flop, not in position. Save and apply filter. So when I'm not in position, we could see that's 1,289 hands total at positive 125. Now these two, saw flop in position and not in position, those should add up to 2,325, which was my total saw flop number of hands. We're doing good. Things are working out well. So now let's add saw flop with various pre-flop plays. The 2-bet, then the call 2-bet, 3-bet, then call 3-bet. So go back to Poker Tracker 4 in More Filters. Let's remove the not in position filter. So we still have saw flop in place. Add filter. Actions and opportunities. So we're starting with the aggressive play of 2-betting. Pre-flop. scroll down, pre-flop raises, and any 2-bet right here. That means that you could be raising over a limper or raising first in. Add that to filter. Save it as a quick filter if you don't already have it. You can see mine is called Saw Flop PF 2-better. 1,300 hands here. Lovely. With a positive 157 big blinds per 100 hands. I'm totally making money when I'm the pre-flop 2-better. But let's see when I'm the pre-flop caller. Remove the 2-bet filter. Add filters. Actions and opportunities. Pre-flop. Now if you're calling a 2-bet, that is a pre-flop call. And just click on or toggle on called 2-bet. Save and apply the filter. We could see, okay, out of 228 times, I have a negative 40 big blinds per 100 hands win rate. So that means on average, every time I call a pre-flop 2-bet, I'm losing 0.4 big blinds per hand, every time I call, that is. Now, the biggest offenders for me, if we take a look at this, are the button and the small blind. That's where I'm losing too much money. On the button, I only called 16 times, but my win rate is negative 146. I could probably do some work there at least. Now, down here, in the small blind, out of 60 hands, I have a negative 134 big blinds per 100 hands. If we think about in the small blind, if you folded every single small blind, you would just be at negative 50 instead of, like for me, negative 134. So I would have saved a ton of money. I play mostly 10 NL, but some 25 NL. So roughly, in all of these 60 hands, if I would have folded every single time instead of calling, I would have lost roughly $3 or so, or about 5 cents times 60 hands. But instead, I lost $12.54. So you can see my calls are causing me more losses than necessary. Definitely an area that I have to look at right here. Now, let's filter for the next one. Saw flop as the 3-better. More filters. Remove the called 2-bet. Add filter. Actions and opportunities. Pre-flop. Now, as a 3-better, that's a pre-flop raise. Click on that. Toggle on any 3-bet. Save and apply filters. Now we could see, lovely, when I am 3-betting, 186 instances, I am positive 430 big blinds per 100 hands. Now this is great, right? On average, every time I 3-bet, I am earning 4.3 big blinds each time. That's a great thing. Now, this is interesting if you look at these two. When somebody open raises in front of you or makes a 2-bet, you have 2 options or 3 options. You can fold, you can call, or you can 3-bet. Obviously, my most profitable option right here is to 3-bet. I should be making more calls than 3-bets. I want to get this number up, 186 3-bets versus 228 hands or 228 calls. I want to flip-flop those. I would love to be 3-betting more, 220 times 3-betting, and only 180 calling, for example, right? Just because I'm so much more profitable when 3-betting, I should just, in general, be doing it more than calling. Now, what about calling that 3-bet? Go to more filters, remove making a 3-bet, add filter, actions and opportunities. We're going to pre-flop. Now, calling a 3-bet is a pre-flop call, called any 3-bet. And once again, if you're listening to this in the podcast, you can kind of follow along, but I know auditorially, it might be a little bit difficult running filters, listening and running. You're better off watching the YouTube video, which of course you can find at smartpokerstudy.com/breadandbutter. But when I run the filter, soft flop, calling 3-bets, how interesting. This is the spot where I see the flop the least often, calling 3-bets at only 48 times out of 15,500 hands. But my win rate is a positive 235. Nice. So that's good. That means when I am calling, I am making some pretty good calling decisions in general. I'm sure some of the calls might be kind of bad calls, potentially, but hey, at least I'm making money when I'm calling. Now let's look at the positional soft flop. I'm sorry, not the positional, the number of players. So we're going to run soft flop for heads up pots, 3 people pots, and 4 players or more pots. So go to more filters, and we're keeping that soft flop in the entire time. Remove the call pre-flop 3-bet. Now let's add to the filter. We're thinking about the number of players. So you're going to find this in hand details, number of players, players seeing the flop. It's initially set at between 2 and 10. Let's just set it at 2 and 2 and then toggle it on. Add that to filter so you can see soft flop with only 2 players on the flop. Save and apply that filter. Save it, of course, because you should make it easier to access again in the future. And I call this one soft flop, 2 players, heads up. Now you can see I saw the flop heads up 1,476 times for a positive 179 big blinds per 100 hands. Loving that right there. Soft flop with 3 people. You saw how I did the 2 people. You can do the 3 people for yourself, so I'm just going to pull up the quick filter. 3 players, 652 hands. Oh, interesting. Positive 0.48, or let's just round up to the nearest 10th, positive 0.5. Pretty low in that multiple player situation. What about soft flop with 4 players? 4 or more players. Oh, positive 78 right there. Not too bad, 196 instances, 78. But it's obvious, the least number of players, only 2 of us to the flop, that's where I am most profitable. And that's one of the reasons why I always tell you, one of the strategies to use for profits and for playing better poker is to get the weakest player heads up to yourself. When you're up against the weakest player at the table, you have better opportunities to get value out of them, to bluff them off the pot. All right, now let's run some bread and butter filters. You can see what it looks like right down here if you're watching it on YouTube, but I'll help you run it right now. Now, the interesting thing is we really don't need soft flop in this filter, so let's exit out of both of those. You have a completely clear filter right now. Because I occasionally play heads up games where it's just me and another player playing because I'm waiting for more players in a 6-max or full ring to join, I don't want those hands to like cloud my bread and butter situations because you're always seeing the flop against just one other person, so you're always in position or out of position. I really care about when there's 3 or more players dealt into the hand. So that's the first part of the filter. So go to add filter here. Actions and I'm sorry. Hand details, number of players, players dealt into the hand. I change it to 3, between 3 and 10 players, toggle it on. That's the very first part of the filter. The next, I made any raise pre-flop because in a bread and butter situation, that means you were the pre-flop raiser. Whether it was a 2-bet, 3-bet, 4-bet, whatever. So we're going to make any raise pre-flop. So go to Actions and Opportunities, Pre-flop, Pre-flop raises, and just turn on any raise right now. So we've got the first 2 parts. The second part, now, because you were the pre-flop raiser and you got to the flop, on the flop, you have the opportunity to c-bet, or somebody could donk bet into you. Instead of checking and letting you c-bet, they donk bet. If you face a donk bet or you have the opportunity to c-bet, that automatically means you were the pre-flop raiser. You didn't make any kind of calls or anything. And then you got to do some kind of action on the flop. So let's add this one. Add filter, actions and opportunities on the flop. Let's go to flop opportunities. Now first is the c-bet opportunity. You turn that one on, hit add to filter. Go back to add filter. On the flop, flop opportunities, scroll down a little bit, raise opportunity type, raise donk bet opportunity. So you have the opportunity to c-bet and you have the opportunity to raise a donk bet. What you do now is you highlight both of these. So click on one, hit the control key on your keyboard, and then click on this one. And then select or down below. So now we have the opportunity to c-bet or the opportunity to raise a donk bet. Next, players seeing flop between 2 and 2. You guys have already done that. Hand details, number of players between flop 2 and 2. Add that to the filter. Lastly, active player relative to all other positions or all other players is in position. And you did this one already as well. Add to filter, hand details, player position. On the flop, you're in position. Nice. So if we see this, we got 3 players or more dealt into the hand. You were the pre-flop raiser, opportunity to c-bet or raise a donk bet. Only 2 players, so it's a heads-up pot. And you're in position. Perfect bread and butter situation. Save and apply filters. So we can see in bread and butter spots, I got into them 662 times, and I am positive 271 big blinds per 100 hands. That's the most profitable situation other than in 3-bet pots. And that makes sense. 3-bet pots, more money was put in pre-flop. I am a little bit more profitable there. But just in general, bread and butter, I am the most profitable. But let's take a look bread and butter with 3 people playing. So click more filters, and let's remove the filter that says players seeing flop between 2 and 2. Add the filter, hand details, number of players seeing the flop. Let's go between 3 and 3 now. Add to filter. So it's the exact same filter, other than now we got 3-player flops. Oh, and now I'm negative right here. Interesting. 146 hands, negative 232. So I'm profitable when I'm facing just one other player, but a third player throwing them into the mix kind of screws things up for me, and maybe I'm making some mistakes right here. Alrighty, so hopefully you did this work for yourself, and your numbers might kind of jive with mine. They won't be the exact same, but you might see black across the board in win rates, other than when you call pre-flop 2 bets, maybe when you call 3 bets, and then maybe it's like mine, where you're negative in bread and butter 3-person pots. So let's take a look at some takeaways from this right here. I want you to let the results that you find when you run these filters for yourself, let them spur you to action. When you see that any kind of losses, those are potential leaks to plug. As you can see, I got some possible leaks right here to plug. When you find these leaks, work to plug them. Do some studying, review some of the losing hands, find out what mistakes that you're making so that you can turn these losing spots into profit-making spots. Now, also, take a look at when your wins are greater than your losses. For example, my win rate when making a 3-bet, that's way more than calling the pre-flop 2-bet, right? Let those wins, when they're greater than losses in a similar situation, let that propel you to hunt for those profitable spots. I should be trying to 3-bet way more than I do calls. Also, avoid those unprofitable spots. If calling is not profitable for me, especially in the small blind, I need to cut out those calls. Maybe turn some of those calls into 3-bets. Or maybe what I need to do is just learn better strategies in those unprofitable spots. My calling strategies might suck. My facing a C-bet post-flop strategies might suck as well. I need to potentially work on all those things, right? But when you record your results like this, you now have an idea of where you need to do your work. So for me specifically, I need to work on my button and small blind calls. When we filtered for that, we saw that. And I need to throw in some more 3-bets because obviously I'm super profitable. I would love, like I said, to flip these numbers around. 228 3-bets made, 186 calls, and I would be even more profitable than I am right now. The other thing for me is I need to plan for additional callers when I'm going for bread and butter. Oftentimes, somebody limps in and I raise, and I'm maybe not paying attention to the blinds who could call and come along and make that a little bit more difficult spot, right? When I'm going for bread and butter, I'm trying to isolate one of the blinds or the limper, whoever limps into the pot. But occasionally, those additional third and fourth callers into the pot, they kind of throw things off and make it a little bit tougher. So I need to just watch out for those additional callers and maybe make a better plan before ISO raising or before trying to isolate an opponent, or have a better post-flop plan against my opponent. So there's some stuff I can definitely work on to improve my profitability. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you do this for yourself, figure out where you need to work, strive to get into those more profitable situations more often. I'll catch you next time.